All right. Well, good afternoon, good morning. I know it's close to lunchtime here. How was Mateer? Was Mateer good? All right, good. I got him all dialed up. I'm really looking forward for y'all to get an opportunity to visit with the rest of our newcomers. And it's a great group of guys, so you guys are going to enjoy that. It's good to see everybody. One of my favorite times of the year. For all the reasons you would expect, building a new team and just a lot of different things that are going on all at once. And it's been a while since we've been together, so just to kind of recap and unwind just a few things as we get started here. Just wanted to say, well, how exciting it is to announce that Jim Nagy is as our new GM. Couldn't be more thrilled, excited. The administration did a wonderful job of getting a really small pool of candidates, and through a very thorough interview process, there was a great alignment that Jim would be. I know it's been called a home run, but that's how we felt, inside as well. And for all the reasons, that you would expect. And, he's got this incredible football mind and all of the depths of experience and just his levels of expertise in building rosters, the connections, the relationships that he has with all people with football at all levels, both professionally and collegiately, whether that's the scouts, that's the head coaches, that's the agents, it's the players, and he's represented, just been first class, his entire career. He's a guy that has this connection to three different staffs that, won Super Bowls. And so a lot of people have been scouts for a long time, but the resumes don't all look the same. And so we're really looking forward as a staff, and certainly myself, to be able to work alongside Jim and in this new professionalized model that we have. Not, I'm a traditionalist. I know I've said that several times over the last few years. Loyal to a fault in many ways, but also I'm smart enough to realize things don't always stay the same, and you have to adapt and pivot and adjust to the new landscape, and it's changing every few hours, as we know, tongue in cheek. But the structure that we've put in place, and that Jim and the staff that he creates in that front office space will get us closer to a professionalized, model in talent retention, talent acquisition, player valuations, contract negotiations, and so much more. Just looking at short-term and long-term, there's a capology that goes into this. That's a very complicated space, and you've had to kind of figure it out, year by year. The last, since it really started. I think most people we don't know what the rules are, what the limitations are, and how things are going to change. And so you've done the best that you could under the circumstances, these last few years. So we're all looking forward to that structure and the boundaries and the guardrails that will be in place through that structure to help you be successful. And I just appreciate the administration for carefully and thoughtfully, putting together this model through a lot of hard work and research, led by both Randall and Joe both, and as well as President Harris in nailing this and getting it right. So obviously the test of time will always tell, but there's still a traditional personal part of the recruiting process, and so for all the ways that it's like similar to an NFL space, college football I'm talking about, there's also ways that it's not. The age group is much different level of maturity that we are dealing with, and we don't get to draft guys. We gotta recruit them. I can't make somebody like me. and or like us, and you've got to recruit them, and you still have to sell something my belief, other than monetary, value. If you can get the same or something close to the same everywhere, then what else is it? And so there's a development piece and certainly an education piece that we don't ever want to lose sight of, because the reality is, it's a very small percentage. The national percentage is under 3%, okay, of the guys in most college locker room, the average college locker room, will ever get an opportunity to be on an opening day roster in the NFL. And so, but we can, the number's going to be a little higher at a place like Oklahoma. And, so we've got to do a great job of continuing to sell, the entirety of the vision, development, education, connection, and life after football as well. But Jim, his wife Lindsay, his daughter Lillian, they're on their way. I think they're landing any moment. And he's got a son at Auburn as well. I'm sure he'll get an opportunity to be around as well. But just absolutely thrilled. Again, an assassin on the field, but just a great human being as well, and great leader off the field. So looking forward to partnering up with him and his staff as he builds that out. Just a few other things, just to, again, just to kind of catch up. I wanted to just comment on the combine and how Danny and Billy and Ethan, I think we had 11 scholarship seniors that and no underclassmen declared for the draft. So we had 11 scholarship seniors that were available to be able to go to be invited to the combine. We had 3 of them that got invited, and those 3 guys just crushed it. Did a great job, and not surprised in any way. I think they all created some value for themselves, and so I would just like to. That's the next step, and there's nobody. It's not like that they're at the finish line by any stretch. But man, that's a great moment. They all dreamt of that, and I know y'all have done a great job of covering that and celebrating. That kind of that milestone for them and the next step in their process. But the rest of those guys will have an opportunity next Tuesday. We'll have our pro day here, and that's coming right around the corner. Something that was interesting about the combine, of the 300 plus total numbers that are invited to the combine, 25%, just under 25% of that total number were either they came from a non-Power 4 school, or they were out of school, but they transferred. They were at a Power 4 school, but they had transferred from a non-Power 4 school. So 1 out of 4, started their collegiate careers at a non-Power 4 school. Just thought that was an interesting factoid, so to speak. Got a couple of coaches that added to our staff since I know they've been announced, but just couldn't be more thrilled. Now we've had the last few days of some OTAs. Certainly the last 8 weeks of being together and putting in our systems on both sides of the ball and working with our players as well. But the last few days in OTAs and things like that. But Nate Dreiling and Wes Goodwin, just 2 fantastic football coaches with great careers. Just different sample sizes, but just they've represented excellence. And obviously I had a relationship with Wes that goes back quite a ways, and I tried to. He was a guy that I was likely going to hire as a position coach here on our first staff, and Coach Sweeney named him as the defensive coordinator. I wasn't surprised. Incredibly highly qualified, and he did a fantastic job while he was at Clemson. Every year they had different things that they achieved, but he's going to work specifically with our Cheetahs, and I think 8 of the 9 linebackers that he coached and over those 3 years were all ACC selections. Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter, both of them were multi-year first-team All-Americans and Butkus Award finalist as well. Sammy Brown was the National Freshman of the Year. And Trenton Simpson, and got drafted, I think in the second or third round to the Baltimore Ravens, and just did a fantastic job. They led the nation in 2023 in defensive touchdowns. In 2023, they led the nation in turnovers as well. In 2022, they're second in the country in sacks with 44 sacks. They were top 10 in the country, number 8 overall in 23 as the defensive coordinator, total defense. And in 22 led the country in tackles for loss as well, amongst many other things. But want to make sure that I do a great job of accurately, letting y'all know who he is, and certainly our players as well. But a coach that's won a national championship and coached in several conference championships as well, and somebody that, man, I'm just thrilled to have. And we built a lot of great defenses together and won a bunch of games together, and he's plugged right in with the rest of our staff. And then Nate Dreiling, if I could, one of the most attractive qualities that there was about Nate Dreiling is just a winner. Everything he's done, he's won. I recruited at his high school, recruited Gino Grissom out of Hutchinson High School. Nate's dad was a head coach, Randy Dreiling, at the time, and I think they maybe had won 5 straight state championships. They won more in a row there, but at that time maybe 5 or 6. And I said, Coach, man, how do you win 5 straight state championships? And he said, my secret sauce is we lift on game day. And I thought that was awesome. And I think more than anything, it just is a mentality. And his team thought they were going to physically beat people up. But Gino came out of that environment, and I really loved Nate as a recruit out of high school. We didn't offer him, and he was just a step slow, and we missed on him because he was a hell of a player. You guys know, probably, again, I would just remind you, he's a 4-time All-American, collegiate All-American. He was the National Freshman of the Year, led the nation in tackles as a freshman, won a national championship as a senior, and and comes from an amazing pedigree. I think his dad's won 10+ state championships there in the state of Kansas, both at St. Thomas Aquinas, where he's at now in Kansas City, and as well as Hutchinson High School. But Nate is a guy that comes from, I'm attracted to, he came from programs where he had to figure out how to do more with less. And he worked at a school there in New Mexico State with what we just call ball coaches. Jerry Keel, one of the best football coaches in the last several decades in college football. A great leader. Reminds me of Jerry Keel. He's a lot like a Bill Schneider, in my opinion. And then also worked alongside, I think, Coach Beck, that's now the OC at Vanderbilt. They were, coordinators there, and Nate took a really bad unit and immediately, had an immediate impact. And we had actually watched some of their crossover games and some opponents that we had played, and some of our coaches had built relationships with Nate and had a familiarity from his football acumen. That's it, and watched him do a really good job under the circumstances, but really produced some really good units and some good statistics and some things that he was able to do. Was thrown into the fire, took a coordinator job at Utah State, and was thrown into the fire as the interim head coach when they let their head coach go, and last July, I believe it was. And as his wife is battling breast cancer, he courageously took that upon himself. And it also told me a lot. You just got there, and they named you as their interim head coach. You obviously have made an impact, some shape, form, or fashion. Not surprised. Again, he's an alpha. That's who I would say Nate Dreiling is. But one of the most attractive things, as I was interviewing several people that I had with Nate, is he said, "Man, I'll walk to Norman, Oklahoma, and I don't care about money. I don't care about titles. I want to come work for you and work with that staff and coach at Oklahoma, and I want to help you be successful." And that's not the only reason, but that was another some people are really needy, and that's fine too. We had plenty of resources to make sure we got the right guy. So between the two, I got two guys that have coordinator experience. They've got this amazing pedigree and track record, not lengthy, but really good in a very short amount of time. And then, just like I'd hoped, man, it's been the chemistry and the cohesion, which is incredibly important, and you can't put a value on immediately. Man, this is a group that has great mutual respect and trust, and really feel very strong in the depth of knowledge and all situational football, all the things from a coordinator standpoint. You're going to go bam, 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 and there is an alignment in some of the philosophies in all of those different areas as well. That's going to mesh really well and has meshed with our staff. So I've been remiss if I just didn't mention those two guys, and they'll get an opportunity as well here this spring to get in front of y'all, so you can get to know them and their families, as well as they help us this season and this spring certainly. Just a few other things as well that I wanted to touch base with. You guys know that we lost 32 scholarship players, and we signed 32 scholarship players, both in the transfer portal. I think 19 on offense and 11 on defense, and then we signed 2 scholarship specialists, and we got a couple of other guys as well that are preferred walk-ons. And then we also put Ben Anderson, who's he's one of the he's going to play this game a long time as one of our scholarship players. Ben Anderson, our long snappers, he's now on scholarship as well. But we do have a few players that will not be available, and I wanted to cover that with you guys. You have 9 guys that your typical out of season, hey man, let's get these guys. A lot of guys battled through some injuries. I know it's been well documented, all the guys that were banged up and didn't play during the season. But there's several guys that actually just played through some injuries that aren't abnormal. Heath Ozida will be out, had a labrum. Cade McIntyre had a labrum, just been high school injury. Jaden Jackson played all year with a labrum tear, so he'll be out. Logan Howland, same thing. Got guys that just fought through it and battled through it. And but they'll all miss the spring. Seth Freeman showed up here. He didn't have an ACL. Didn't even know it as a long snapper. KJ Daniels, he's had a hamstring from high school. Just he can't get over it, and we're going to help him get over it. Just keep him. It's a severe hamstring injury, so he'll miss most of the spring. Andy Bass re-injured his ACL, so he's back at it a second time. And Javante got hurt in a game there late in the season, and with a foot, and so we're going to keep him out of the spring. And then Darius Afalava had a high school injury that he's been a part of OTAs and might do it the next couple of days, and then we're going to put him on the shelf and get this a cleanup job on one of his knees, just something that he's battled through, and just with the pain. So he'll miss the rest of spring. And we'll have a handful of guys like a Peyton Bowen that will be part-time. And he's a guy that battled through a turf toe all last season, and really affected him. And he just played through it week in and week out. And those turf toes are really just it's a really funky injury. And then we'll have a handful of other guys. Gentry Williams will be a guy that he'll be cleared during the spring, but we'll try to take care of him as well, and be just a guy that we give him some individual work, but not any of the contact stuff, things of that nature. So I want to give you guys an update on that as well. And we've had 8 weeks of training, and again, as I started out in opening up, just it's a fun time of the year to build a new team with your returners and all the new guys, both in the transfer portal and our high school guys. Really fun time, but between our mat drills and the weight room made a tremendous amount of gains, and Got a long ways to go. Get these guys used to all of our systems and how we do what we do, the weight room, academics, and we had our 5th straight semester as well, academically, breaking academic records. So having good habits in the classroom is important. I think it bleeds over into every part of your life too. And so guys have bought in to that as well. And we have some young guys that, for example, again, when I can appreciate the older guys being great examples, guys like Ethan and Billy and Woody Washington and Danny Stutzman, guys that got their degrees, and not only got their degrees, but man, achieved at a really high level. But they're, guys like that have, passed it down to, Robert or Peyton, Kobe, Kip, those types of guys, as well, Gentry, Eli. Those are all guys that are really high academic guys. But now you got a guy like Mike Fasusi comes in here, and Mike's doing great in football, but he's also, he's got A's in all of his classes. And so I could go on and on about that too. But the habits and the standards of those guys are, passing those things on and nurturing that in the locker room. It makes a big difference. But team building, and again, transition and time management, all those things that new players, whether they've been in college or not, but this is how we do it. This is how Schmitty does it. This is how Schmitty's staff does it. This is how we do mat drills, and here's how we do 4th quarter drills, and this is how we do speed school, and this is how we do walkthroughs. All those things that are brand new for so many guys. So, and then every year you kind of start over and you reestablish, things that, standards and expectations and things of that nature. Go right back to the basics and you build it from the ground up. But really pleased with the gains that we made over the last 2 months in the weight room and with our speed school as well. It's very palpable. Some of the young guys that are eating 3+ meals a day for the first time in their lives, they made even more gains. But you've seen it across the board, and now again, just systems and cohesion and building your leadership, and then the trust, the accountability, all those things that are important to building your team so you have a good product in the fall. There's no guarantees for anything, obviously, but I think foundationally it takes that, and so been real committed to building that out the right way, and still have a tremendous amount of work to do as well. So really fun time, as I said, that time of the year. We went back and looked just studies wise. It's been close to 2 to 1 from an injury standpoint. I know we had an inordinate amount of injuries this year compared to our first 2 years, and so looked back at every part of our program and where we can get better and just be more efficient and keep our guys healthy. But 2 to 1, the injuries occurred games as opposed to practice, and that's no surprise. Being around the game a long time, that's right about on par. But that did have a little bit to do with our decision for the spring game, and everything's changed in college football. And again, I'm a traditionalist at heart, and I look at how we build and develop our team, and certainly there are no preseason games. You wish there were, but the reality is, it's a very dumbed down version. You're not showing a whole lot. You're keeping it very safe. You're doing quick whistles. You're getting all your good players out fast. Well, our roster is not the same. We've got close to 30 guys less than what we had a year ago at this time. Plus, you've got 9 guys that aren't participating all, and then you got another 8, 9, 10 guys that aren't available for contact right now, so there's another 20 guys. So, all that being said, the new roster structure in college football across the board, if I said one thing in the healthy space, when you get it healthy, you say, what's different outside of the sheer numbers? What I see, because of the landscape and open-ended free agency, you don't have as much competitive depth. That's real. And what we've have been afforded in the last few years is different now. Guys aren't willing to be as patient. And so whether that's a financial opportunity or hey man, I don't care where I got to go, I just want to be the starter. Now I can leave at any point in time. That's real as well. So don't have the same competitive depth as you got $20+ million, now roughly invested in a roster now on top of the scholarships, and then you have an opportunity to we'll have a normal practice that day, and where we get good situational work. We got quick whistles, keeping people off the ground, but we don't have the roster to divide up teams, and we just don't have those numbers. And but fan engagement's always been incredibly important to me. I think it's a great time of the year to be able to do that. And so I think, administratively, that we've come up some really unique ways to still get a chance to see these guys compete and some of their talents and keep them out of harm's way, things of that nature. So excited about what that'll look like. And I know it's different. Change is not a lot of fun for anyone, but we'll just try to adapt and pivot and do what is best for this team and how we try to develop it, get it ready for a really challenging 2025 season. So with that, I got an opportunity for a few questions.
Coach, just have another application. We won't be able to take too many, but I'll start with Eric Bailey.
What asked about Jim's hiring, kind of a two-part question. I wanted to ask you, first of all, his hiring, how much does that kind of take a weight off your shoulders in terms of this changing landscape, not having to worry about agents, not having to worry about recruiting, or just placing your focus more on recruiting, not worrying about dealing with agents? And secondly, wanted to ask you a little bit about his dealing with agents. He has that in his past, and it's something that you really can benefit from, his ability to do that.
Yeah. So everything you said is real. I think the biggest thing from a time management standpoint, that takes a load of time. Gives you back to, again, the things that you want to be as a head coach, developing your team, doing the X's and the O's, focusing on your culture, giving your coaches the resources they need to be successful, so that took a lot of time, and you already have a very finite amount of time as it is. And so not being, stretched thin is, and having a staff that's all they think about 24/7. And again, emotionally, there's certainly a business aspect to it, and but man, I care about people in this space. So you want to still be who you are and be able to make good business decisions. And so for me, I'm a very open and upfront and honest. You're going to get exactly how I feel. And so telling somebody a 18, 19, 20-year-old what their valuation are not easy discussions. and I remember, and I've always been this way even as a coach. I remember the bad plays. And so I have a hard time with that. And when there hasn't been this blueprint or a model that or any type of comparables, this is a very difficult space to be in, and in a space that we had no experience, and every staff had the same issue. So I'm not complaining at all. You asked a question, and it took a lot of time and a lot of energy, and I wasn't the only one. Certainly Curtis Lofton, and we tried to build the systems without understanding again what that should all look like, try to figure it out. So this gives you a lot of peace, and it's going to be able to steal some time back. So that you can keep the main thing. And then what was your second?
Experience of dealing with
Yeah, so those relationships, that goes a long way. And I would just say everything, as I said, everything changes every 2 hours. The conversations with agents this year, if you had all of us head coaches up here, they would tell you where those conversations were 2 years ago or 3 years ago were a lot different than where they were this year. And the depth and the amount of people that are agents today is a lot different. The qualifications are not always the same, and sometimes, again, my opinion is that you choose an agent so that they can give me the best situation possible. And so I got a great fit. Help me find a great fit. Don't chase the most money. Don't, That's just me. Where can I get the best bang for the buck too? And where I can get good value, but also get great opportunity for development and scheme fit and environment fit, things of that nature. And so figuring and navigating all that, will leave that to people that have done it, for their entire careers. And so you had a great sense of peace. Those are a couple of the many reasons why, this is such an exciting opportunity for us in bringing, Jim on.
My neighbor.
Yeah, Brent, sort of following up on that, I wanted to ask about your role in recruiting and how much that evolves through this, whether it's back to some things that you used to be able to do,
Yeah.
or how much that changes sort of at all levels.
Yeah, I would think that it's the same as any college football coach has ever been in regards to, okay, he's the face of the program. He's casting vision for what the opportunity is going to look like for little Larry in his, the next 4 or 5 years of his life. There's a connection piece to that. And there's this holistic development piece. What's a day-to-day life going to be in this program, the culture and those types of things. So I don't think that you lose that personal touch. I think the efficiencies of the systems is what Jim and his staff are going to manage. And instead of, starting with, you're in the middle of the ocean, if you will, and casting a net out there, I think they can get us focused a little faster because of the efficiencies. We're doing ball, and man, they're doing recruiting 24/7, and then they're going to utilize the staff, and they're going to understand the footprint. I do think that part is still, it's not the New England Patriots going to have the same pull everywhere you go, because you don't get to draft them. They have to choose to come to your place. So this feels a little uneasy up here, but. Okay, so where do we have a good footprint? And then, okay, what's the footprint for the SEC? And guess what? By the way, Oklahoma is the furthest school away from that footprint. We have to do the most traveling. And if you look at the combine, that's where's the south east is that way. And so that's where the players are. But again, you don't want to, and again, there's deep-seated connections there too. I've said this a lot. I think you can win a national championship at Oklahoma within 7 to 9 hours of this campus, all the while knowing that, hey, if I need to go and get that quarterback from the east or the west coast or from Florida, wherever that is, or this offensive tackle, things of that nature, you want to be mindful of that. And Oklahoma still has an amazing brand, and the doors from coast to coast will open, and we have got great connections with this new modernized staff. The vision for that too, a lot of relationships that are going to really bode well for us, but making sure that we do a great job of being efficient. They'll utilize and lean on us, and then hey man, we hired you, we're paying you to also have your impact and influence, your DNA all over this. And you want to hire people that are smarter than you, that are more qualified than you. That's what you want to do. And then you want to empower them to go do work. But they'll help us get to a really efficient space, and the coaches will have an impact and influence on some of that and choosing guys. All right, here's your 3 choices, or things of that nature. I'm being incredibly broad and general there. But and then they'll have to, the staff here will, and we've already built that in our systems. Curtis built that in our system to put a grading system in our own roster that'll also translate into a grading system, as you look at talent acquisition as well, and the things that we value from players that we're looking for in our systems at each position, and what we're looking for, and then graded our own players. And that'll be different, where we're not having to do that as much as in-house Jim and his staff will. They'll constantly be evaluating our current roster. And I've told these players, for almost 2 years now, things are changing, and y'all need to adapt. We're going to have to adapt, And your job is to create value for yourself every single day. You can't just blend in and not be on a list, and everything's going to be okay. That's not going to necessarily keep you here, being a good guy anymore. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and not everybody can be a developmental guy. But we all value, and I know Jim and his staff, they'll value, developmental people too. And we want a roster that's stable, that's cohesive, that there's some consistency to it. And so I think, when you get a chance to visit with Jim and whoever else is hired on that staff, that you'll see some type of a blend that'll be in that 70-30 high school to portal, 75-25, something that creates the foundation and the stability that you want. And we got to do our part in having success on the field that can continue to attract really good players out of high school and the portal as well, and then they'll do a good job in the evaluation process. But it'll be a collaboration, but we need to lean on these guys and we did actually experience with that as I go back here with Jake Rosenberg, and the portal, we utilized an NFL staff, and they help manage it in the same structure basically that we'll have now. The coaches graded a bunch of players. The scouts graded players, and then they put values on guys. And we had a budget that we dealt with, and then we picked the best guys based on the needs and the budget. And we got to an agreement, an alignment. Like, all right, let's go with that guy. Everybody in agreement. Let's go. And with no looking back, and everybody is excited and moving together. So we got that during a small sample size, and what I liked, and I know that coaches did too, it was just a very consistent, coherent approach, that we had structures in place and a lot of clarity, both on finances and again what each guy had real value prior to them ever even coming on campus. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brent. John Mateer, you've been around him 2 months now. What have you learned about his personality, his leadership, his demeanor, those kinds of things?
That's a great question. I think he's got great competitive maturity to him and competitive toughness. He's consistent. He likes the locker room. He's a football junkie, a gym rat. He's up at the facility nonstop. He's got one other person other than a coach that puts in more hours than him. It's Jaron Canick. And so I think it's his cross to bear to be in the facility more than Jaron Canick. And but no, I say that he's blended in and transitioned incredibly well. He's about that work. Players recognize his talent immediately, but he's incredibly competitive. He's got a great maturity about him, and he's a very process-driven, young guy.
George?
Yeah, Brent, I wanted to ask you about your decision to call the defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
What went into that decision? Does that speak to just, I guess, how big of a year this is for you and this program?
Yeah, well, every year's big, and for me, I know I've said that. I don't think people really well, that's just coach speak. But I go back to my first year when Bill Snyder hired me on an interim basis. You ever been hired on an interim basis where basically they said your job's on the line? I'm watching everything you do, and your first screw up, there's no guarantee, and I'm also going to pay you pennies. All right. Well, that was my first time, and I was so thankful. But I've literally had that mindset my entire career. Every game's that way. Every day I show up, something's on the line. My job's on the line. I've had that for 30 years. I'm going to hire you. I'm going to pay you $30,000, and I can't promise anything that you'll last past the summer. All right. That's literally what I was told. And I said, oh, thank you, God, thank you. And I've had the same mindset. And I believe, because I've had that same mindset, that I don't go like this and everything's on the line. He's fighting for his job. I've been fighting for my job every year. Like somebody's holding me under the water trying to drown me. And that's been my mindset. That's been my attitude when I come to work every day. So nothing's changing for me. Do we need to be better? You're damn right. Does your mindset got to change? Nope. And why am I going to call the defense? Because I'm good at it. and I'm confident in it. And we've got a great staff. And if I'm going to be successful, if the players are going to be successful, if the product is going to be what we want it to be, it's going to be because of all of us. And somebody's got to lead it. I did that in 23. We made improvement. In some areas, not as much as we wanted, but so I know what that looks like in managing game day and in season, out of season, the meeting room, practice field, all those things. I know what that looks like. I have a good feel for that. And many people do it at a really high level, where they call an offense or call a defense and have a lot of success. No guarantees with anything, but it's a comfort zone for me. And last year we went 6-7. I didn't call the defense, so that didn't work very well, right? So look at a lot of you look at it a lot of different ways, and everybody has a narrative that they'll write stories, and I'm not in control of that, but. I like our roster. I like our players. I like our leadership that we have. I love our coaching staff as well, and how we'll work together. What's the best? Do you bring somebody in and start completely over with somebody that you don't know necessarily what the resume looks like, and do you promote somebody from within? And I know how I am, Again, it's been on the line my whole career, I don't have this when we get in that stadium, when they get in that stadium on game day and it's 3rd and 12 and you got to make the call, everything's quiet for me. It ain't loud. It ain't, oh my God, all this pressure. That ain't that way for me. It's a freaking safe place for me. It's as quiet as all get out, and that's just for whatever reason. That's how it's always been for me, and but I can't necessarily say that had I promoted from within. We got some excellent coaches, and so I said, I don't want that, on any of those guys. I'm built for that, and so I don't say that in any kind of egotistical way, or I would do way better than anybody else. I just know that's a very comfortable place for me. And good or bad, I'm comfortable in that space, and and I know that programmatically, I feel really good about what I've seen, and hiring a really feel great about Coach Arbuckle and that side of the ball, and what I've seen in a very short amount of time, and only since the moment we hired him, and he's been here and he's been in that environment every step of the way. The people that he's brought in, and combined with the coaches that he's charged to lead, and their willingness to plug in and adjust and adapt and be better than we've been in the past. The leadership, the confidence, the focus, the detail, the urgency, the sense of desperation, the enthusiasm, the energy, everything's in a great place, and so that gives me a lot of confidence, as well as having Doug Deacon back another year too, and he did an excellent job. I think when you look back at college football last year, I think, and I may have said this, but I think we're one of 3 teams in college football that had a defense that was top 10 efficiency, and a special teams that was top 15 efficiency. Only 3 teams in college football that had that. It was Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma. They had offenses that were, I can't even say they're top 30. I know that, and we had one that was historically bad. And so if we get a little better there, get a few more first downs, don't give the ball back, don't lead the world in defensive touchdowns. I think the statistics from this last year was, if you score a defensive touchdown, you have an 83% chance of winning the game. So flip that over and look at it, from our offense. If we give up a defensive touchdown, just give it to them, you got a 17% chance to win. That's what football stats tell you. So I know I'm a little bit off course here, but talking about just having a real piece about the direction, the leadership of the offense, and some of the things that I know if we can continue to improve on defense and get better in special teams, and then get dramatically better in the areas that I think if we're healthy we play above average at quarterback and take care of the football, then we'll have a chance to win every single game. And in a real challenging year and schedule, that's still the expectation and the standard that I feel, and again, we have a lot of work to do, but love the people that are in the right places, both on the roster and again, we'll see how spring goes, but, with the staff as well.
Thanks, Brent.
Yep.
I know you're in a time crunch, right?
Yeah. I'll take another question.
Tom?
Brent, I know you do the guys that are out this spring, but any update on how Gibson, Kendall, Collier?
Yeah, well, again, as of yesterday, both those guys had very limited non-contact positional work, and I think Jaden was working some routes on air, and might have had a small setback. We'll get final word back on that, so don't want to really say anything in that regard. Kendall has looked good, in again a limited capacity as well. Neither one of them went through mat drills, just to continue to do their rehab and things of that nature. But we'll see where that is.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.